What's the main agenda of the BRICS 2024 summit? More than 40 developing countries have formally expressed their interest in joining the alliance. Therefore, the 10-member bloc will decide on BRICS expansion in the October summit in Russia. The expansion is based on consensus, and all members will jointly decide on who is let in and which country needs rejection. How will BRICS potentially impact global currency dynamics? Why might the BRICS expansion in 2024 be problematic for the US and the dollar? How will the influence of BRICS affect geopolitical alliances and financial supremacy? What is Iran's POV? What China is doing? Let's uncover all these questions in this video, so be with us until the end. De-dollarization is the main agenda and topic of discussion in the upcoming BRICS 2024 summit in October this year. The 16th summit will be held in the Kazan region of Russia, where new members, the UAE, Egypt, Iran, and Ethiopia, will also be a part of the grouping. The summit will also plan on expansion, making BRICS to become bigger and financially stronger. BRICS will discuss new ideas to put local currencies first for cross-border transactions, and not the US dollar. On the heels of the BRICS summit, Thailand's political scientist Jiraporn Ruampongpatana explained that 2024's expansion could be problematic to the US, the West, and the dollar. The expert stressed that the BRICS expansion will lead to several changes in how they operate and settle trade payments. The US dollar will be the first casualty in cross-border payments, leading to more countries ending reliance on the currency. The expansion of BRICS will lead to changes in geopolitics and economy, as the further division of the world into two poles will continue. She stressed that the BRICS influence will lead to problems that will directly affect the US dollar and Western allies. The influence of this group could make it problematic for some countries, closely aligned with the West, to build further relations with it. Therefore, the battle for financial supremacy could begin after the BRICS 2024 summit in October this year. While developing countries remain on one side of the geopolitical spectrum, the US and other Western allies will be on the opposite side. While BRICS countries have conducted $260 billion worth trade without the US dollar, BRICS is advancing to eliminate the US dollar in all of its global trade and transactions in 2024. The bloc aims to put local currencies ahead of the US dollar to strengthen their native economies and businesses. The alliance is also convincing other developing countries to follow suit and settle payments in local currencies for cross-border transactions. The de-dollarization initiative is spreading its wings across the world, making developing countries end dependency on the dollar. China and Russia initiate $260 billion worth of trade without the US dollar. BRICS members China and Russia recently signed a trade agreement where they will use local currencies up to $260 billion. The trade deal will be initiated to settle payments in exchange for commodities purchased between the two nations. Both China and Russia will settle payments in the Chinese yuan and the Russian ruble, and not the US dollar. 95% of the $260 billion worth of trade will be settled in the Chinese yuan. The rest 5% will be settled in the Russian ruble and the euro. The development indicates that the BRICS alliance is serious and will do almost anything to push the de-dollarization agenda ahead. If many other developing countries begin to follow the BRICS agenda, then the US dollar will be put under pressure. Therefore, the next decade will be completely different from today, as local currencies could gain strength in the financial sector. IMF has released its GDP growth forecasts for 2024, and while global growth is projected to stay steady at 3.2%, various major nations are seeing declining forecasts. This chart visualizes the 2024 real GDP growth forecasts using data from the IMF's 2024 World Economic Outlook for G7 and BRICS member nations, along with Saudi Arabia, which is still considering an invitation to join the bloc. Only 3 BRICS-invited or member countries, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and South Africa, have higher projected real GDP growth rates in 2024 than last year. BRICS nations still have a significantly higher average growth forecast at 3.6% compared to the G7 average of 1%. While the G7 countries' combined GDP is around $15 trillion greater than the BRICS nations, with continued higher growth rates and the potential to add more members, BRICS looks likely to overtake the G7 in economic size within 2 decades. Before we proceed further, discussing how China has dominated the BRICS bloc, ditched US dollar all-time low, and how changing BRICS perspective from BRICS to BRICS Plus, I'd like to hear from you. Are you finding this video informative? Feel free to share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. And if you're finding it helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Your support means a lot to us and helps us reach a wider audience and the content that you'll love. Let's continue this journey together. Goldman Sachs economist Jim O'Neill predicted that BRICS bloc was poised to play an increasingly significant role in the global economy. His prediction was that by 2050, these countries would collectively account for 40% of the world's economic output. In reality, from 2012 to 2022, China alone has accounted for around a quarter of global GDP growth, and the BRICS countries together contributed over 45%. BRICS was officially launched in 2009. Since then, trade relations have clearly grown, but in a very unbalanced manner. Most of the growth in trade has been China-centric, with the contribution from the rest of BRICS remaining quite flat until recently. The recent increase is mostly explained by India, which has experienced an acceleration in economic growth. BRICS members are increasingly intertwined with China as far as trade is concerned, but the remaining members have very few ties among themselves. Bilateral trade between BRICS members other than China remains extremely low. China has been the leading proponent of expanding BRICS to BRICS Plus. The main reason for expansion was to make BRICS more representative of the developing world and give it a stronger voice on the global stage. China has sold more than $74 billion in U.S. treasuries in the last year. China has decreased its treasuries holdings from $849 billion to $775 billion between the beginning of second quarter of 2023 and 2024, reaching its lowest holdings since 2009. Other countries let go of small amounts of treasuries holdings over the last quarter, with India selling $1.4 billion, Brazil unloading $1.2 billion, and Saudi Arabia shedding $0.3 billion. The new data come as Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says Russia and China have almost completely stopped using the dollar in their mutual trade. According to Lavrov, more than 90% of settlements between the countries are now carried out in their own national currencies, with their economic cooperation accelerating despite persistent attempts by Western countries to prevent this, and this seems to be done very quickly. Because the bloc is expected to announce the membership of new countries in the upcoming summit. Russia's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sergei Ryabkov, said that it is worth mentioning that all the newcomers show great enthusiasm. They are ready to work substantively and professionally on the agenda that the Russian chairmanship has developed in consultation with all participants. As of April 2024, around 35 countries have expressed their interest to join BRICS. While some have formally expressed their interest by submitting the applications, others have informally expressed to join the alliance. Furthermore, the larger the BRICS grows in 2024, the bigger the US dollar faces the heat. More countries will reduce reliance on the nation's currency. The greenback is already in dangerous waters, and the BRICS De dollarization initiative is only stirring more waves. Iran has appealed to the BRICS group of developing nations to assist in ending Israeli atrocities against the Palestinian people right away. During a meeting in Moscow, representatives from the BRICS countries and their counterparts who gathered to discuss recent events in Middle East, Bagheri emphasized the importance of the role played by individual countries and international organizations in addressing the crisis caused by the Israel. He stressed that their actions and positions will be remembered in history. The senior Iranian representative conveyed appreciation to South Africa for referring Israel to the International Court of Justice for the Gaza Strip massacre, which we have previously mentioned with details in one of our previous videos. If you're new to the channel and haven't watched that, we strongly recommend you to watch that video. Link is mentioned in the description. Now let's get back to the topic. The BRICS alliance has continued to embrace local currency promotion, as one expert has claimed the US economy is in depression alongside its dollar struggles. Specifically, Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki stated his belief in the rather concerning state of the country's economy. Throughout the last year, the BRICS alliance has sought to increase its relevance on a global scale. A large part of that plan has been connected to its desire to increase local currency promotion and embrace de-dollarization. Meanwhile, the United States has struggled with its own increasing debt crisis and skyrocketing inflation. Now, with the BRICS bloc not relenting on its initiatives, one expert has said that the US economy is in depression amid ongoing dollar concerts. Specifically, that's why Robert Kiyosaki took to X to explain his perception of the country's financial state. The questions that arise are what BRICS can achieve with such a heterogeneous group of members, and whether it will be able to maintain its objectives after expansion. One increasingly important objective of BRICS is to become the new platform for developing countries to voice their concerns and interests. The international financial architecture is an area where members' positions can clearly be aligned. The actual impact of BRICS expansion will depend on several factors, including the group's ability to overcome its internal challenges and the response of the West. Still, the smooth expansion is a clear sign that the global balance of power is shifting and that developing countries are playing an increasingly important role in global affairs. The future of the grouping is uncertain, given its heavy economic dependence on China and the deteriorating sentiment towards China among its members. Do you think that BRICS, with so many financial challenges, can ditch US dollars so easily, which has been the international currency for decades? Will the summit's result be productive enough to rely on their objectives? And most importantly, what would US do to keep the dollar stable? Let us know your opinions in the comments section, and don't forget to share the video and like and click on the subscribe button as well for remaining updated of the current trends in this fast-paced modern world. Until next video, stay tuned.